policies and procedures for home health agencies in Delaware. My name is Dr. David Amakobe. I'm a consultant in organizational structure and behavior. Organizational behavior is simply the impact individuals, groups, organizational structure, and processes have on behavior within organizations. In this series of videos, we concentrate on the processes in home health agencies that affect behavior within those agencies. The policies and procedures set the rules of engagement between the owners, the managers, the leaders, the promoters, the providers, the customer, the clients, the family members, the regulators, and the society in general. In our last video, we dealt with several policies that are important. We started with the definition of the agency. When you start writing the policies and procedures of an organization, you must first define it. You must tell people what the organization is all about, what it is, whether it's. So we started with a policy of defining the organization. Then we moved on to having a policy that states the mission statement, the vision of the agency, and the values of the agency. From there, we had a policy. We said that you need to have a policy on the services offered. You are a home health agency, but what services are you offering? You have to have a policy that specifically says these are the services that you offer to your clients. And then you must define the area of service. You are not offering your services to everybody that comes to you. You must specify where you will be serving. Then you must have a policy that states the payment services you take. After that, you have to have a fee schedule. You are offering a service, you are taking payments, but what would the clients pay? They need to know that upfront. And how do you set them? You need to have a policy that tells the stakeholders how you set your prices and how you adjust them up and down. Then you have to say the hours you operate. Licenses are a limited resource for the society. And when you are given a license, a professional license, to offer a service, you need to be available when you say you're going to be there. So you must specifically have a policy saying what hours of operation you provide the service. Then lastly, in that video, we considered the organization structure and administrative control. You need to have a policy that defines specifically who is in charge, who people can contact when they are in need with the customers, the family members, the administrators, and the society in general when they're dealing with your agency. So if you want to know more about those policies and how to set them, view the last video, video number 2, you'll be able to see. In this video, we're going to consider policies about the target population. We also consider the service limitations. We'll consider ethics committee. You are providing a social service to the people. You need to have a committee that considers ethical issues when they come up. Then you need to consider a corporate compliance plan. There are so many rules and regulations that come your way or are enacted when you are providing service, when you interact with customers. You must have a contingency, corporate compliance plan that ensures that you are in compliance with all the rules and regulations, local, federal, state, and international. So you must have a plan. You must have a policy that says how you will comply with them. Finally, or moving forward, you will have branch officers and you will have to define them, where you will have them, if you have them, if you don't. So you have to have a policy on branch officers. How do you open them? How do they relate to you? And what does the law say? How do they take payments? They take the payments from corporate, does the corporate office take payments for the services offered at the branch, or does the branch take payments? those are the things that you need to deal with the branch office. So you need a policy of branch officers and how they relate to corporate. Then you need to know that besides the ethics committee, which consider ethics issues when they come, you need to have a professional advisory committee, which helps you in dealing with professional issues as they rise and making sure that you are in compliance with the profession. So, in this video, we will consider that. Then we will consider that when you have people working for you, you need to evaluate their performance. You also need to evaluate your own performance, the agency's performance annually, because most insurance companies or most payers would like to know what the customers think about you. So you need to have a process where you evaluate your performance and you evaluate the performance of your employees. And that you must have a policy that tells everybody what criteria, what key performance indicators you'll be using to gauge your performance. And then there's the idea of admission. You'll be admitting patients. You have to have a policy that tells you how you will be admitting your patients, so that everybody understands what to expect when they come to your agency. It must be put in the policy so that everybody, you, your employees, your customers, your clients, your family members know how you determine who to admit. And then there is the face-to-face encounter with the physician. You must have it written down, considering what the law says about the customers you take and the patients you have, and the employees you have, the profession you have. The face-to-face encounter is very important, particularly in recertification for federal funding. You must have a policy that's out there specifically saying what you do. And then there's the idea of when you admit people, you will have to discharge them sometime. You have to discharge them, or you have to transfer them. Sometimes if they get out, they get so critical and you can't handle it, if they are beyond your service, they are gone beyond your service limitations, you must have a policy that says how you will handle them. So, you have a discharge and transfer policy. That's important. Then you have to have a contingency plan. What do you suppose you are not able to provide the service? What will happen? How would you handle your customers? How would the customers conduct you? Suppose your employees are not able to conduct you. Suppose you are not able to conduct your employees. Suppose there is an emergency, there is a pandemic. How do you act? You need to write that down in a policy so that everybody understands it. And you understand it too in running your business. Then there is the idea that sometimes whatever starts may come to an end. So if you reach a situation that you must close your agency, you must have a policy that is within the law that tells people how you will handle closing your agency. So we will now dig a little deeper. Particularly, I like to deal with the ethics committee. The ethics committee ensures that patients and agency staff have a method to voice ethical and moral questions and concerns. When you're dealing with social issues, we're dealing with health, moral and ethical concerns arise every time. And we need to know how to handle them, how to process them, how to voice them. If we do not have a straightforward policy and a well-established, straightforward and known policy of how to handle that, we end up in a problem. So the ethics committee is the advisory group appointed by the director. It reviews or requests ethical or moral questions that may come up. Staff or patients may submit a written request for committee review to the director or director of nursing. The committee shall meet to review the issue within 3 business days of receiving the request. So it's specific. If somebody raises a customer, a patient, a family member, a staff member raises an ethical issue, it must be raised to the director, who will then ask the ethical committee to sit down and review it and make a decision. And the complaint plan, and the other issue, the policy about compliance is the same. It just make sure that the agency and the people within it are complying with the rules and regulations as in a fluid situation, so that you don't run foul of the law. The other committee that you need to consider is the professional advisory committee. All home health agencies are expected to have a professional advisory committee. And the policy on the professional advisory committee defines the composition and duties of the agency's professional committee. The professional advisory committee should be appointed by the board and should be composed of professional people, doctors, nurses, people who know about healthcare, who know about taking care of customers, who know about taking customers in their homes, so that they can be able to advise the agency's board of how to run the business. So you can see the policies and procedures actually affect the processes in the organization, and they affect the behavior. They are expected to affect the behavior of people in the agency, to make sure that you provide the service you promised, in the time you promised, at the place you promised, and in the manner in which you promised. Because you are using a limited resource, the license, serving people, and you have to serve them the way you promised you'll serve them. So, moving forward, the advisory committee is something that helps you make sure that you're doing the right thing. Annual evaluations. The policy on annual evaluations ensure that we remain within the guardrails and offering the best services that we can, both the agency and the employees and the providers. We need to make sure that customers or patients get the value they pay for. And the payers also want to make sure, want to know that the customers feel that they are getting the value they pay for. So the annual evaluation policy helps you in that. The admission criteria. The policy on admission criteria simply establishes the criteria for admission to the agency. And it should say that the agency will evaluate each individual for the appropriateness of admission without regard to race, age, color, creed, sex, national origin, ancestry, religion, handicap, disability, marital status, or sexual preference. That means you have to specifically say you will not discriminate people who come for admission other than on your ability to provide the service to them according to the service limitations you stated before, according to the service area you stated before. You will not be out of admission criteria if somebody comes out of the area you serve and you don't take them. But if somebody comes from the area you serve and they qualify for all the other criteria and they are within the service areas that you said you serve, you should be able to take them. And this admission criteria holds you and holds everybody accountable for it. Having a face-to-face encounter, having a provider have a face-to-face encounter to a patient, particularly when they are at home, is important. In a hospital setting, the provider comes in front of at the bedside and meets the patient. But in a home care situation, we have to make sure that the provider shows up at a certain time, in a certain frequency, on the patient's bedside so that they can be able to evaluate them. So the face-to-face encounter and all patients needing Medicare reimbursement of home care are required to have a documented face-to-face encounter with an eligible health provider within 90 days and before 30 days after the initiation of the healthcare service. That means if you are taking Medicare or Medicaid, or for that matter any healthcare plan, you should make sure that your customer or a client or patient within 90 days have had a face-to-face with the provider, with a doctor and nurse practitioner. This is the requirement of the law, and you should incorporate it in your policy so that it can regulate the behavior of the providers, of the administrators, of everybody in the agency. So that's face-to-face. In the discharge and transfer policy, it should take care of voluntary discharge, involuntary discharge, voluntary transfers, involuntary transfers. Basically tell people what you expect of them, what they expect of you. So that when you are separating, everybody understands that the rules and regulations of engagement were either followed or not followed. So when you are doing a discharge, you must be within the law, you must be within our policies. And when you're doing a transfer, the discharge should be that the client became better, okay? They got all the services they needed and they became better. Or there are certain situations that you can discharge a customer because maybe they have to go to a different facility which offers better services than you do. Not better, but more targeted services. Or involuntary, when payment is not being made, when the home is unsafe for your providers for reasons that are recognized legally. If a home is unsafe for the provider, you cannot put them in danger. The safety of the provider and also the freedom to the patient is very key. If we are providing healthcare services so that we give them life, we cannot put them in danger that can endanger their life. We cannot endanger the lives of the provider as well, because the providers are scarce. They need to be able to take care of the society. So one client cannot endanger a provider because he will deprive the other members of society of the services that the provider gives. That's why these policies are there, so that when a patient is being taken on board, the patient, the family members know exactly what is expected of them. Today, that is the end of our third video. We'll take over from there as we look at the policies and procedures for home health agencies in Delaware, and this in the larger thing of the processes in the healthcare agencies. And we in this video and this series of videos, we deal with the impact individuals, groups, organization structure and processes have on behavior within organizations. And in this particular case, we're dealing with home health agencies in Delaware. We deal with the policies and procedures because they affect the processes in the agency that affect the behavior of all the people involved in the agency and the provision of home health services. Thank you for staying with me. I am happy that you are following up on this to make sure that when you are operating a home health agency, you have the right policies in place so that the behavior in your agency is within the law, within the framework of providing good service. Again, my name is Dr. David Frederick Amakobe. I'm a consultant on organization structure and behavior, and I specialize in in healthcare. So in this series of videos, we are dealing with the policies and procedures for home health agencies in Delaware. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.